All right, so today's video is going to be a bit of a quick one. So we're talking about thesis development. So one key part that comes into the process of creating an essay is coming up with your thesis statement, coming up with your guiding principle, your guiding idea. What is the rest of the essay going to be based around? So, coming up with a great thesis statement is important. Okay, so what is a thesis statement, first of all? A thesis statement is a couple things. The answer to a question you've been asked, the solution for a problem you've identified, or most often, a statement that takes a position on a debatable topic. So in the case of your research assignment, it's going to be this third one. It's going to be a statement that takes a position on a debatable topic. So thesis statement. So think statement when you think about this. Okay, so here are some general tips about thesis statements. So things for you to kind of be familiar with, some concepts. Okay, first and foremost, it's a statement that contains your essay's topic and the points that you're going to argue in relation to it. It gives the reader a sense of what the essay is going to be about, so they know what to expect. And it usually comes at the end of the introduction, so it should be at the end of your first paragraph. It shouldn't be any later than that, because if we get to the end of the essay and then we get a thesis statement, it's kind of like, I already read that. Am I going to go back and do it again? Probably not. Okay. Most thesis statements are only one sentence long, so generally speaking, the thesis statement is one definitive statement, and we're going to look at some examples here in upcoming slides that go through that, but the idea is it's very quick and to the point. So it could be something like, the United States should ban the use of automatic weapons for the safety of citizens. That's straight to the point. We're talking about guns, we're talking about restricting guns, we're talking about safety. Straight to the point, no problems. Okay. It should be a complete sentence. I mean, if you just have, the United States should, or guns are bad, that's not really a complete sentence. It needs to have a full thought to it. And everything that follows in the essay is going to support that thesis. So in the first paragraph, before you get to the actual thesis statement, you may just have some history of the issue. You may talk about, if we're talking about guns, you may talk about the Second Amendment. You might talk about the right to bear arms. You might talk about those kinds of things. To give the reader some sort of background information to know why this is in fact even an issue. Okay? And so we talk about the introductory paragraph following this kind of format. We have what we call our attention getter, or a hook. We introduce the background on the topic, and then we state the thesis statement. So when we talk about attention getters or hooks, this is where we include anecdotes. This is where we include facts and figures. For a persuasive argument, like those that are controversial issues, gun control, same-sex marriage, legalization of drugs, those kinds of things, we want to use shock statements. I call them shock statements because the idea is it should terrify the reader. Nothing terrifies a reader more than numbers. Okay, 87% of statistics are made up. 94% of people know that. Right? Another thing, if I were to say, 1 out of every 6 people is going to fall down the stairs and break their ankle. Kind of look around, you count how many people are in the room, you're like, all right, there's 18 people in the room. Chances are 3 of us are going to fall down and break our ankles. That's one way. Another way of kind of shocking the reader is to use current events. So if you're talking about guns, you might use, some of the tragedies in recent history. So things like Virginia Tech, the Colorado movie theater shootings, Columbine. You might talk about Newtown in New England, where those elementary school kids were shot dead. Okay, nothing terrifies people more than numbers or dead kids. Those are scary things, So you want to consider those as some of the things that you use when you are building an argument, when you're introducing an essay. If you have a good hook, a good introduction, you're going to have a reader who's more interested in the issue. They know more of what this is going to be about, and there's less of a question of, so who cares? So what is the role of a thesis statement? So again, a thesis statement does a couple things. It asserts an argument, explains a topic, or analyzes an issue. It's specific in presenting your opinion as the writer. It limits both the scope and the topic of the paper, and it captures the reader's interest and focuses that interest on the paper, or on the issue. So all of these kind of come back together. A thesis statement, again, it kind of locks you into a specific argument, a specific topic. It limits your topic. It makes your topic very specific in terms of what it's about. Okay, so again, if we're talking about gun control, it talks about a specific issue of gun control. We talked about automatic weapons. Automatic weapons are a specific type of weapon. Or we could focus in on the need for stronger background checks, for psychological reviews of people buying guns, or the need for better training, better safety. We would focus on just one aspect of that issue because it can focus the essay and it can make it very specific, and you're not writing 20 pages on why guns are great or why guns are bad or whatever. You're focusing it simply on one aspect of the issue. Okay. So we look at types of thesis statements. A persuasive paper, so generally what we're really working on here is a research assignment, but it falls into a persuasive paper. So it makes a claim based on an opinion, an evaluation, or an interpretation of the topic and proves this claim with specific evidence. That's what you're doing. You're picking the aspect of the argument that you want to argue, and you are supporting it with specific examples. Okay, so here's an example of a persuasive thesis statement. So high school graduates should be required to take a year off to pursue community service projects before entering college in order to increase their maturity and global awareness. Okay, so this is an example of persuasive thesis for a couple of reasons. The first reason is that it's an issue that people can have a pro or a con opinion on. So this is saying high school students should take a year off, should be required to take a year off to do community service. Okay, so someone could argue the opposing viewpoint. Someone could argue that high school graduates should not be required to do this, but then they would have to argue why not. So in this thesis statement, we're arguing that it helps them, it helps their community, it also increases their maturity and their global awareness. Whereas someone who might be saying, that's a bad idea because some people can't afford it. Some people don't care about their community. Some people wouldn't go to college. So it doesn't, impact everyone. But either way, you can argue one side or the other of the issue. Okay. So that's something to think about when it comes to these things. Okay. So once you've kind of figured out what your thesis statement is going to be about, there's a couple of different ways that you can structure them. There's two specific ways that we're looking at how you can structure a thesis statement. Of the two, I recommend this one. I recommend the list method or the essay map because it's clearer to you, it's clearer to the reader. But you have another option that we'll look at next. Okay, so we talk about the thesis, constructing a thesis statement using the list format. You include the essay's topic, you include the point you're going to argue, and you include the 3 supporting reasons that your essay is going to be built around. Okay, so here's an example of a thesis statement that's used to talk about the list method. So to reduce the number of highway fatalities, so this is our topic, and this is what we're already arguing. We're reducing highway fatalities. So we know we're talking about road safety. We're talking about making road safety better. To reduce the number of highway fatalities, our country needs to enforce the national law that designates 21 as the minimum legal age to drink, to set up checkpoints on major holidays, and to take away licenses from convicted drunk drivers. Okay, so it tells us what it's about, what we're going to argue for, that there's a need for it, and then it touches on the 3 aspects, the 3 supporting paragraphs. So one supporting paragraph is going to be about making sure the legal drinking age stays at 21. The second one is going to focus on setting up checkpoints for alcohol on holidays, which is already happening. And the third one is to take away licenses from convicted drunk drivers.